to welcome all the speakers that we have today, but at the same time I'm glad that we have participants who have been joining from across the world. So good morning and good afternoon, good evening to ladies and gentlemen and fellow professionals. We have as part of the session today, we have Dennis as my co-host as the last time, and we also have Eric, who is continuing from the last session. Last session, we had Gayatri, who was the head of financial services for PwC, and Anil Jampana, who was a senior director PSC Consulting, as a speaker. But today they were not able to join, but I am glad to have Jyoti, who has joined from IBM. Jyoti is the associate partner, travel and transportation, India and subcontinent at IBM Consulting. And I'd actually seen Sunil as well, who joined. So Sunil is the senior marketer with TCS. And apart from them, I'm also waiting for Vijaya, who will be joining soon. Sunil is back. So yeah, Sunil.
Hey,
Hi, Sunil.
good morning, and it's a pleasure to join in. I'm looking forward for this conversation.
Thank you, Sunil. Jyoti, would you like to talk about yourself? A quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. So, good evening, good morning, everyone, depending on the part of the world that you are joining in. It's a pleasure to speak on this forum, and thank you for the organizers to organize it. And I'm looking forward to an engaging session. I lead the travel and transportation sector for IBM Consulting for ISA, which is India and South Asia, subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, basically, and it will be pleasure wish to interact with the audience and look forward to an engaging discussion and also relevant questions for my own learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Eric, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Good morning, good evening, and welcome, folks. My name's Eric, and I spent many years in marketing and sales, and I have been running my own small consultancy since late 2015, and we concentrate on digital transformation on the revenue side, marketing and sales, marketing operations, and then fractional marketing resources.
Thank you, Eric. Dennis, do you want to talk about yourself?
Dish, hey,
Yeah.
this is our Dish. I don't know if you remember. This is our 11th webinar together. Boy, these are going by very quickly. Glad to be with you today, Vish. I know we have a lot to go over, so I'm keeping my remarks very concise today. Back to you, man.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed it's a pleasure, Dennis, to work with you on the last 11 odd sessions. I remember we started last year in the month of December, and we continued since then on so many sessions. Let me begin with a movie that I watched last Sunday, and the name of the movie is The Outfit. It's directed and co-written by Graham Moore. It's actually a captivating tale of an English tailor who used to craft suits in London and then moved to Chicago, where he made beautiful clothes for the only people who can afford them, a family of gangsters. So there's a quote from that movie that is stuck with me, and that quote goes, "But I will caution you to heed your patterns. They are there for a reason. This isn't art, this is a craft. We can talk about shocking originality later. The point now is a skill. Your patterns, your proven forms, they aren't your enemies. They are the only friends you have." So today we have gathered here to delve into the patterns and proven forms that our distinguished panel of speakers have developed over the years. These very patterns have made them successful salespersons, marketeers, and leaders. So in this part two of our session, Qualifying Leads, Your Challenges on Parade, we aim to uncover the secrets to their success. So while we had, this session wherein the speakers are going to share their invaluable insights. But for the participants, whether you are a founder, marketer, or in sales, this session has been tailor-made for you. In fact, the part one of the session, we had covered a lot of topics from qualifying leads, and that session is the recording of that session is available on YouTube. But this session, we are going to have some unique perspective from lead qualification perspective that we are going to cover together with the speakers that we have today. So welcome to Qualifying Leads, your challenges on parade, and let's get started. I'd like to quickly start with a question in terms of, for the speakers, if you can briefly introduce your role in the company and how it relates to lead qualification. Well, of course, you did talk about yourself in brief, but specifically from the perspective of lead qualification, what is the role that you hold, and how it kind of connects with qualifying leads. Dennis, do you want to begin?
So qualifying leads is, that's like right in the middle of my go-to-market and everything that I do now in Windows on Wall Street, sales with an edge. And people probably have seen some of my posts or the videos that I've put up on this. And my perspective on this, based on all those wonderful years I had at HP, Oracle, and at TCS, is one way to approach this philosophically is to narrow the top of the funnel. I am all about what I call the prequel, which is to do the right amount of corporate research to leaven out, wean out likely candidates who are not going to lead anywhere productive for the sales team, and instead really do a good job of qualifying potential opportunities at the front end so that the top of the funnel is much, much, much more narrower. It's a very different philosophical point of view and concept on how to approach this thing. I believe that the top of the funnel being as wide as it is right now, despite everybody's best efforts, it produces a lot of extraneous activity that could be eliminated if, in fact, we did a lot more qualification before we started asking marketing to go out into the market and find people. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the way I look at things based on my experience at these three big companies.
Thanks, Dennis. Sunil, you want to share your insights?
The trouble with speaking after Dennis is very rarely he leaves some stuff for you to cover, right? But after having worked for nearly 25 years in marketing roles, different roles, including the one of a CMO, my biggest engagement challenge with sales is how do you keep them satisfied and how do you keep them feeding these qualified leads that they are happy to receive and say, hey, my marketing guys got this for me, right? So very rarely you hear those words. No matter how many leads you generate from a good event that you've done, the event metrics are, by your own perspective, highly successful, a number of fresh contacts made, number of relevant contacts made, all that you kind of put into the funnel. By the time it waters down to the individual salesperson, when you start tracking them for, hey, what's happening on the follow-up, what's happening, has outreach been made, have you made the initial contact, what's going on, you would really get a very underwhelming kind of a response. So I think the challenge for most CMOs or marketing leaders for us is how do you identify what is a win lead or a satisfactory lead that these guys will sort of ascribe value when you go back and pick up the conversation. So the number of buyers, particularly in enterprise marketing or B2B, whatever term you apply, the number of potential buyers are finite, and the number of people going after them are also the many. So to be able to zero in on the right prospect and get a yay from the sales guys and move it into the pipeline and say, okay, these are the prospects that we're going to be tracking for the entire buying cycle is really the challenge that we've always been struggling. So I'll pause here and let others chime in and then pick up the threads if we need.
Oh, thank you, Sunil. I think you have given a lot of fodder to Jyoti. She was actually talking to me earlier about MQL and SQL, and since we were colleagues together, so she did share, a couple of times when we had some disagreements. Jyoti, do you want to share your perspective?
Oh, yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Sunil, for giving me so many talking points here. So maybe I'll pick up the thread which you rightly mentioned. I completely understand, acknowledge, and agree that it's really very difficult to kind of satisfy, the sales hunger for qualified leads, right? And it's very rare you will find a sales guy walking to a marketing guy and say that you did a fantastic job, and by the way the lead that you gave me is turning out to be a $10 million project, right? So yes, having said that, I come from a background of B2B and B2G, and in both the sectors we really don't have the lead qualification or the lead generation the way a B2C typically would have it. And having said that, there would be some similarities, but from my experience of around 25 years in this industry, selling to various B2B customers and also to the government of India in my earlier role, I don't think a lead generation is a typical lead generation the way it happens in B2C in this context. And that's where it becomes more challenging, from what we heard Sunil sharing. Usually, which the lead generation happens in the form of events, which are very, I would say, oriented towards a niche, or a focused kind of, I would say, attendees and participants. If you're talking about IT, which I have done all through my years, it needs to be, a focused, even participation as a panelist, wherein people really come back to you and talk to you about what you have spoken in sessions. And very, very important in organizations, especially which deal with B2B and B2G, is how do you really qualify a client? And there's a lot of time which goes into qualification of a client and qualification of the lead being generated by that client. So you look at your past history of doing your projects with that customer. You may look at how that customer has really been with you over a period of time. You may want to look at the NPS score. Is the customer really talking to others and proposing? How do you want to the kind of products and services that you deliver to them? I think that is the crux of if I say lead generation or a lead qualification, primarily, the way it happens. So you get a lead from the events, of course. For example, you may get a lead from a delivery partner who is actually delivering the project at your project site, but then you need to qualify it with all your qualifications related to customer buying behavior, so as to say, over a period of time. That's my experience, Vish, particularly on this.
No, thank you, Jyoti. I think you did touch upon some of the critical topics here, for which I already had few questions for you, which I intended to cover. But I think you made some points, very good points, and especially in B2B scenario, the lead qualification, lead generation is very complex. It's a complex process, and yeah, there's a sales who has its sources of leads which they are either getting generated from delivery function, or their relationship with customers, or even from other sources, while marketing is mostly relying leads from the touch points on various channels. Either it could be event, or it could be email campaigns, or it could be social media. But yeah, thank you, Jyoti, for your insights. Eric, what do you have to share?
My approach is very holistic, almost like an operating model approach. Starts with alignment between marketing and sales, understanding of shared goals, profiles, and those things, and then putting in a very robust closed loop process from how we generate leads, to how we cleanse the data, to how do we do lead qualification, do we do enhancement, What's nurture? How do we do the assignment, irrespective whether it's B2B, B2C, or business to employee or direct to consumer? How do we do the assignment of the lead? How we do the pipeline management? And then I also add, how do we do the post-sale communication? Because those leads eventually come back into market and we would like to sell them. So I take a very much end-to-end closed loop type of approach to lead qualification. Frankly, I think the marketing qualified and sales qualified leads are myths, right? That we hang our hats on because we don't have a better way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with your point that MQL and SQL are myths, and actually these are lead definitions from two different worlds. So marketing has its own way of defining lead as marketing qualified lead, while sales has its own way of defining sales qualified lead, and there's always this misalignment which has been there between sales and marketing on these lead definitions. So yeah, and when we look at the alignment between sales and marketing, so Jyoti, how do you see sales, marketing, and leadership can collaborate together to ensure a cohesive approach to lead qualification, considering the context that we have on what we discussed, the differences which are there between marketing and sales?
I think Vish, from my experience, I think especially in the kind of industry that I have been in all these years, marketing, and there is usually not much, I would say, difference as far as lead generation is concerned into what marketing does and what sales does, right? And hence it's very important that both are extensions of each other's, right? That's how I look at it. For example, if you're talking about lead generation in a very focused kind of a group, you may want to, for example, do a event for that customer, right? If it is a very large customer, which are very large operations across various continents or various countries, you may want to really have a focused event for that customer in that geography or in multiple geographies simultaneously. Now that's where the marketing and sales have to really go hand in hand. So what I mean by that is that marketing needs to know what is the exact relationship matrix which sales is following in that account, for example.
Yeah.
And and sales have to know that from a marketing campaign perspective, what are the focus areas which an organization may have, which changes, especially in the technology domain, very often, right? We see that, in initial years, it used to be more to how to get the brand online, and IT companies played a very important role in that. To today, an AI and a generative AI and a hybrid cloud kind of technologies which are coming in. So that's the role of marketing, which is more strategic, right? So they need to really advise sales that, guys, these are the major things which are happening right now in the industry. These are the footprint that you have in this particular account in various geographies. Can we just marry these two and make a campaign only for, let's say, this specific customer or this similar kind of an industry? I think that's the kind of symbiotic relationship which needs to exist between sales and marketing, especially a B2B and B2G kind of initiative.
I agree, Jyoti. I think that's that's a different field altogether, which is some people, they call it as account-based marketing, wherein you have very targeted kind of campaigns and run, which are specifically targeting certain roles in a specific account. But Sunil, if I may ask you, do you agree with Jyoti, and what process or strategies you think should be in place to improve communication and alignment between sales and marketing?
Thank you. I was like, I found myself nodding my head and suddenly discovered that it's an audio conversation, and I fully agree with what Jyoti was saying in terms of the challenges between just finding the common ground, right? It's a big part. And this is where the word leadership that you used really comes into play. I've worked with leaders who have more sympathy to their sales folks because they themselves came up through the sales ranks. And I also, to my good fortune, found one or two good leaders who also had donned the hat of some degree of marketing awareness by virtue of their agency exposure and so on. So in that sense, the role of a leader as the referee and bringing common definitions together comes into play. For example, after you do a big ticket item and you come back and you say these are the leads, and you hand it over to the head of sales, and the head of sales goes forth and then distributes it among the team. Within a few days, and you now marketing team has moved on to the next big event or the next big thing, and you start that the leads that you thought were your biggest ROI are slowly getting watered down, right? So that's where the role of a leader in holding the sales and the marketing teams accountable comes into play, saying, look, if I agree that this is these qualified leads, and again, it is not just because you have a brand new business card dropped in, we keep saying the business cards are dropped in for a variety of reasons. Do they really, fit the BANT acronym or MEDIC acronym, whichever acronym you choose, whatever is the most recent, flavor acronym? The real challenge is that guy going to be of some monetary value to the business? Will it move an existing RFP in our direction, or would we potentially get into a conversation with them? So for a company like ours, or for a business like ours, which is a large enterprise that we are going after, the known number of customers or prospects are all too well known. It is the degree of engagement that we are moving that becomes a priority. Is it a new group within a large client that we already know of? So through using existing connects, can we go deeper? And so we move that metric and assign a value to that particular lead. Will it begin to play an existing RFP, or will the person be a key influencer in making the current RFP a little more in our favor and move the disposition of the buyer towards us because of this existing conversation? So a variety of these parameters need to be applied, and before either sales can walk away feeling, yes, this will add to my numbers quota this year, or a marketing guy saying, hey, I'm on target to get my bonus this year. Either way, it's the refereeing part and a transparent conversation process that needs to go into place. All too often, as the euphoria wears down, we tend to forget that we had put in this enormous amount of hard work, got to the event, got the leads, and then they are somewhere dying on the vine.
Yeah, sounds good. You did talk about some good, areas, critical areas. I also want to check with you, what's the role of brand perception in these lead qualification? And when you approach a customer, of course, especially in B2B scenario, while they are, relationships that actually precedes the other set of engagement or the brand perception. But from your perspective, how do you see brand perception, the role of brand perception influencing lead qualification?
A big part. In fact, there are two elements to that brand perception. Is how a potential prospect, customer, buyer sees us. That's the really important part. But all too often, decisions are made by how our leaders, our sales leaders, and sometimes even marketing people, we are clouded by our own biases and beliefs in our own brands. We tend to exaggerate the value of our own brand, and sometimes it's good to take pride in our brands and be immensely proud of the brands you're working for and building. But that should not occasionally cloud the judgment to say that our competitors are not as hungry as we are, or as a value offering that they bring is not as compelling as we are. You have to start leaving vanity at the door when you walk into our office or at our job. there is value and there is vanity. If you believe your vanity a lot more, then you ascribe more value than it is being perceived by the buyer. And brand marketers, and particularly people like us, and this is something I'll someday write a book. So wish this is my free bonus to our our folks that who are listening in. This value vanity matrix is a very important element, not just for brands that we are working for, but even our personal branding as well. If I believe I am indispensable to the team, whereas I am not, then I am just high on vanity and low on value. Whereas if I am high on value and less on vanity, then I'm more closer to a realistic perception of my value than I'd like to believe otherwise. So I hope I kind of answered your question.
No, thank you so much. So you talked about vanity values. That's interesting, and you offered books, and I would like to also mention to the participants that now today we have offers for you, and you should be also engaging. If you have any questions for the speaker, do raise your hand, and if you feel like there's any insights that you found valuable, do share either a thumbs up or a smiley. You can react to some of these insights and share your responses. Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh. I'm glad. I think he has a question, I believe. Let me allow him to speak. Yeah, Dr. Ashutosh, you have to unmute yourself to share your question.
I am thankful to Jyoti for inviting me. And Jyoti actually knows me since last maybe 12 years. I have seen the condition of sales guys, and I was director project GAIL and chairman GAIL India. I am at this moment a member tribunal. So what you all are discussing, it is very difficult to convince the client, and the perception in the mind of the client. That is the key thing. That is the key thing. And what I think Mr. Sunil has told, that vanity part, value and vanity, it is very essential.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very, very good lesson, but it is very difficult to convince the client that this is our product and this is of use to you. So maybe something you are all senior people and you are doing a good job. So you need to understand the client psychology. It is must to understand.
Yeah, Dr. Ashutosh, thank you.
And moreover, the key part is you need to understand the leadership. Your leadership, generally at your age, you are all agile people. But at our age, maybe around 56 to 60, they are not so agile. So how to make them understand that this product is good for your company? It is a top-driven agenda from any company. So this is a small take from my side.
Yeah.
What I want to share.
Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh. These are valid questions, and
Vish, can I just
yeah, Jyoti, go ahead, please.
So Vish, can I just thank Dr. Ashutosh? Dr. Ashutosh, thank you so much for joining. And let me also tell the audience that some of the first sales calls and concept presentations that I have done as part of my oil and gas journey has been to Dr. Ashutosh, who was, of course, a very difficult customer, but I really learned a lot from him. So thank you, sir, for joining the event today.
Yeah.
And as you rightly said, I'm glad that at that position you understand that it's not an easy job for anyone to come and talk about the services, products, and absolutely.
It is not.
Thank you for those comments.
One day, one SAP guy, in fact, I appreciate. He's now director SAP, and he came to my room, and they all used to come to my room and have a cup of tea, like a tree under which they can have a shadow. And I asked him, where you are for last 1 month? He said, sir, I was just going to your Noida office and getting the job done. And 1 month continuous at that level, he used to go to our people. So that was I think that passion is required as a sales people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh. But yeah, as you mentioned, so I certainly have this question as well for our panel speakers. How do you convince the buyer,
the client,
the client, the ROI of these projects. So,
and,
what
and,
message?
and the top management client may be at the mid level,
Yeah,
but how to, and they have to get approval from the top management. Like suppose today GAIL chairman, ONGC chairman, Indian Oil chairman, and or maybe the directors. How you are going to convince them?
yeah. So, I'll let me invite Dennis to share, because we did a couple of exercises in this regard in terms of working out ROI on the base of financial statements and so on and so forth. Dennis, do you want to chip in and share your viewpoints?
I would, Vish, and I was holding back because I know we have a lot to cover today. I believe it is quite uncomplicated to uncover the financial health or ill health of a company by using the company's financial statements and analyzing them along a certain set of criteria. And from that information, one could be drawn to one particular client or another, or repel one client or another, depending on what their financial statements look like. So without even knowing a company, I could even take away the ticker symbols of the company so as to not bias the salespeople to think about which company to go after, and just use the financial analysis to help them decide this company would be worthy of my pursuit and the other one might not be. And I'm just going to add one punctuation mark to that. I am so much convinced that we should be telling the clients why we picked them to be going after. That we have conducted X amount of research, and based on all of that pre-research that we've done, we feel that our value propositions would be particularly of value to them, and these are the reasons why. And I'm not sure we do enough of that messaging to the client in telling them why we picked them. Yes, we're going to try and convince them as to why they should pick us, but I believe that we would be doing ourselves a favor by really emphasizing why we picked them and show them the evidence, because that is such a lovely but indirect way of showing off our value propositions. Mr. Company X, or I shouldn't say X because X is now taken, Mr. Company Y, we have picked you for these reasons. We have studied you backwards and forwards, and we feel we could be of help to you, and this is why. That's a lovely way to court a new prospect or client. Thanks, Vish.
Thank you, Dennis. Sunil, do you have anything to add from a marketing perspective? How do you assist in providing data and insights that can help buyers, or the salespeople, to convince buyers understand the potential ROI of working with us?
Yeah, so we are constantly answering the question, what's in it for me, right? As in this, the content play is all about storytelling and so on. But increasingly, people are getting fatigued, and particularly if you are a very international player and you're looking at Western markets, they tend to see the marketing literature with a lot of pessimism. So really, mass content, mass storytelling, mass outreach is dead. Mass campaigns are dead. Where we really need to get into is hyper-personalized, very client-based and account-based marketing, and account-based content is one big element here. But even within the account, the kind of person you're talking to, you really have to actually tailor your content. Because the same content, if you just bombard to the CFO, CMO, CEO, and the board members, then you're not really doing, there you're actually mass bombarding and carpet bombing inside the account. You're not doing any bit of personalized research that Dennis alluded to. So to the CFO, you need to say, hey, here's how you can improve your EPS. Here's how you can improve your these key financial parameters. But then when you go to the CMO, you also have to say, hey, if you implement this and your consumer perception changes, your brand salience will get affected, and then you tailor that to the branding and overall factors that appeal to the CMO. And to the CEO, obviously, it's all about delivering values to the stakeholders. And so I think to make yourself valuable, the way is to be all things to all people. You cannot have one thing to all people and just pray and spray and hope for the best.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Eric, do you have anything to add here?
I agree with both Dennis and Sunil. For me, it's about having the appropriate conversation with the different stakeholders. If we're talking technology, when we're talking to the CIO, what are the outcomes that are important to them? If we're talking to a CMO, what are the outcomes, the CEO, the CFO? And every time relating it to the outcomes that are important to them. The conversation's not about us, it's how we help them achieve the outcomes they're trying to drive.
Yeah, I agree. So, in fact, a similar question from here is, there are also potential risk that buyer may perceive from these engagements. So, Jyoti, if you can share your insights in terms of how you mitigate these potential risks that buyer, especially, may look at from a complex, you know, while evaluating a new vendor or partner for B2B collaboration. So, how you as a service provider would mitigate these potential risks?
Yeah, which that's a very pertinent question because, and that goes back to what Dennis mentioned. Why it is blind, right? So that to do your own mind to really take the communication.
Your voice
See,
is robotic. It's
yeah.
Jyoti. Sorry, your voice turned robotic. So, I think okay. In the meantime, yeah. Are you back?
Can you hear me now, Vish?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. No, so I was just to repeat myself, I was just saying that this is a very pertinent question, and that really loops us back to what Dennis mentioned, that while all the time the customers are choosing the service providers, the on the other hand, the service provider is also required to choose the customers, right? And especially in kind of very looking at large and complex partnerships over a period of time, it's very important that we as well. And that's where the risks associated with such a selection and the mitigation of it internally also comes into picture. So some of the things which I have seen from my professional experience is the moment we are looking at a very large and a complex project, the first thing is that how do we qualify that customer internally? So what are the qualification criteria? The qualification criteria could be, let's say, with reference to they're working in a particular geography which we may not support or the company doesn't support, a high risk kind of a country where the solution or services are to be delivered. The second criteria is what is our association with that customer over a period of time. Is it that the customer really values what we bring onto the table for them, and that is quite pertinent. I mean, very visible when we are looking at the CSAT score or the NPS scores, right? Then the third, question that we need to answer and check is that is he paying us well, right? Is the all the projects that we have delivered till now, are they profitable? Because at the end of the day, it's all about profits for both. It needs to be a win-win mutual relationship between the service provider and the customer. The fourth, I think everyone knows, is competitive landscape. How do we kind of position ourselves with respect to the competitive landscape which is already there? What is the anti-incumbency or incumbency factor which is playing against or for us? And of course, there are the legal T's and C's which goes into the specifics of such kind of large contracts. But also one thing which is very important in B2B is who is the end consumer for this customer of ours. That sometimes also becomes very important. So we might be selling a service or a solution to a customer who in turn is selling, not selling, but giving services via those solutions to, let's say, a government entity. Then how is it that working? So I think these are all the, important factors from my own experience of, selling, which comes very important, and they are qualified internally before we really start engaging. And we may have a high risk for a particular project for the same customer, for which probably a low risk was associated for a similar project with some other or with the same customer. So, there could be lots of permutations and combinations here, Vish.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there could be risk from the regulatory environment as well, the government,
Yes.
which you did talk about initially,
Yeah.
in terms of which
Yeah.
country we are kind of providing them services. Yeah. So
Correct.
and how about some of the on the sustainability side, like where we
Hmm.
where we talk about diversity and inclusion by
Yes.
buyers. So in a world where vendor diversity and inclusion might have started becoming increasingly important. So how do you address these considerations from a buyer's perspective? Do you see such
Yeah.
requirement of inclusivity?
Yes, so Vision, some of the engagements that we have started now, or from the earlier engagements as well. I think these are the two important points which come up during discussions. One definitely is sustainability, and the second also is diversity and inclusion. In fact, in some of the contracts, we also go back and see if our own suppliers, have these kind of parameters met up or not as per our standards, right? And this is very this has become quite common. The only positive that I have, especially coming from an IT and the industry which I deal in with it, which is airlines and airports, is the diversity factor is quite high. The gender diversity I'm talking about. We are talking about airlines which has a very healthy mix of or a equal ratio, I will say, of male to female. And in IT, of course, the male to female ratio maybe at a very senior positions may not be that handsome, but at least from mid to low level, it's quite okay to deal with. Sustainability indeed is one of the most important criteria now which come up, during discussions in large and complex projects, because the customers also are looking at sustainable solution fitment, to their requirements. And I'm very glad that at least from the organizations that I have worked in with, have been quite uh, forward looking in terms of bringing this to table for discussions upfront, Vish.
Yeah. Thank you, Jyoti. Sunil, I understand TCS is also in forefront in terms of diversity, inclusivity, and sustainability. Do you have any insights to share here?
Yes, without plugging our brand too much, yes, the gender balance is something that long before this became a fashion or a buzzword, there was a concerted effort to bring it nearly close to 50%, that 50% of our leaders ought to be women. Unfortunately, the as you go to the top of the pyramid, the percentages tend to drop, but it is the pipeline, as the sales folks would love to say, is looking healthy, and I think the future is bright, particularly for TCS, where a majority of our workforce is in the subcontinent and emerging countries and LATAM and so on and so forth. The numbers are really looking good. But I want to just make a pivot from diversity and sustainability to saying how can, which is linking to the earlier question of how do you get there, and even the guest doctor said the same thing. How do you get the CEOs and the senior level leaders transform their perspective towards us, is right? So one of the things that I'm a bit old fashioned in that sense is always go back to your core purpose. How do you elevate your corporation's core purpose by aligning it to the customer's core purpose? And that's where of late our efforts in the area of elevating health and fitness, elevating the organization's purpose, elevating the community involvement and the societal well-being, those are coming into play in a big way. That's where I feel a company's true differentiation can be made, where you are going directly to the top of the C-level leaders and saying, hey, if you pick us, we will transform your existence. The French phrase is raison d'etre, right? Your very reason for existence is to serve your customers, and be profitable and so on and so forth. We will help you get there. And this is how we did it with others like you, and we will help you. And I think in a summary, we sometimes tend to forget that we are doing business with human beings, and getting the human element back onto the content, back onto our conversations, back onto our relationships is a key part of our marketers' mandate.
I agree. I think there's a lot been discussed about emotional connect, which is needed in these engagements and nurturing while you are nurturing, these C-level audience. But thank you, Sunil, for your inputs. Now we would be, we are very much close to, closing the session, and I would like to invite participants in case if they have any questions for the speakers. Do raise your hand, and I'll allow you to join here in the panel and share your question with the speaker. So anyone who'd like to raise a hand? Okay, so maybe while we wait for the audience to react, um, I may probably ask a last question to Eric, and to the panel. Actually, it's with reference to changing buyer behavior, and trends, and we have seen a changing digital landscape, and actually it's been changing so rapidly. Uh, so, Eric, how do you recommend to adapt to meet evolving buyer behavior and preferences, considering these changing digital landscape?
I will tell you that's a great question, Vish. We have seen great societal and industrial changes over the last few years. Um, Changes that were underlying were accelerated by the pandemic. So it is more important than ever that, and I'm going to support a point that Sunil made, is that we lean on storytelling. Humans don't connect with data. They connect with stories. We do a better job of convincing folks when we tell a story, and when we make our customers the hero of the story. The best we can ever be is a guide, right? And we guide them through, and we help our customers solve their issue, right? Reach the outcomes, whatever they're trying to accomplish. And it's more important than ever that we lean on storytelling and personalization, because we don't have a lot of those face-to-faces like we used to have. A lot of it is done digitally, and we often, particularly in B2B, don't see customers until late in the process, right? Whether they've eliminated a number of potential competitors. So it's key to drive connection.
Yeah. Yeah, the while it's very critical to kind of, especially from a B2B perspective, having strong connections and building, nurturing these connections over a period of time through various content tools, or the art of storytelling. I think that's very important, to convince and to nurture these contacts and convert them as a customer. Dennis, do you have any concluding remarks before we end the session?
Vish, if I could, I just want to plug our session number 12. Our next event, which will be on camera, LinkedIn Live, is going to be on November 16th, same time as always, and it's going to be predicated, and its purpose is 22x, 20, 24, 25, etc. The vision for crafting an annual business plan with AI for success. using AI to help with the crafting of the business plans. I know I'm looking forward to that. So I only wanted to volunteer that, Vish. I thought today was terrific, and I really appreciate all of our speakers contributing. Thanks, Vish.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, we are looking forward to that session as we understand that the business planning is going to get started with various corporates and startups, and we have a lot of interesting insights to share as part of that session, and that's what Dennis talked about. So we invite you to be part of that session and share your your perspective. If you have any specific areas that you want to cover, you want us to cover as part of the session, we would be more than happy to do so. But thank you, Dennis. Jyoti, Sunil, Eric, thank you so much. Do you have any last comment to share, to make?
I think the upcoming session on AI will be very interesting. Having played quite a bit with AI over the last few months, and I'm helping a startup develop an AI marketing engine that does both lead qual and helps create marketing material. I will throw in one little monkey wrench. AI is only as good as the prompt engineering. If you don't get the prompts right, the answers don't matter. The data doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're not asking it to do the right things, you will get strange results. And even sometimes when you ask, you have a good prompt, you still get nonsensical answers. But I think it'll be a great session. Ish.
Yeah, yeah, you rightly mentioned. So is the AI combined with wisdom that's going to that's how it should be used. And there's to use that wisdom, you need to have a lot of experience, a lot of um, uh, tried tested techniques that can work in favor. Thank you, Eric. Jyoti, Sunil, any last comments from your end?
Yeah, so
No, go ahead.
go ahead,
Go
Sunil.
ahead.
Go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
no. No, like Taylor Swift, I'd say marketers will be strong. They can be wrong. Keep going.
All right. So I think, Vish, the one thing that is my takeaway after this engaging session is, of course, validation of some of the things that over the years, the industry has been following, for selling and marketing. And I'm glad that Sunil also picked up that it's definitely not very easy job to have sales and marketing come on the same platform. But then what's very important is that once a lead is generated, we should be able to take it forward and culminate into a contract. I think that's the whole idea of marketing and sales working together, and a leadership who really understands both the points here.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me, Vish. I think it was an engaging discussion and a lot of learnings from the co-panelists and also all the questions. Thank
Uh,
you.
thank you, Jyoti. And as we see in practice, sales always has the stronger and the last say, even in lead qualification or so. Thank you, Jyoti, so much. Yeah, it's indeed a remarkable session that we had today, and I trust participants might have found this exploration into the world of lead qualification as enlightening as I have. The insights and wisdom shared by our distinguished panel of experts have been nothing short of invaluable. I'd like to thank Jyoti, Sunil, Eric, Dennis for sharing their valuable insights with the audience. Also like to thank Ritika, who's unwell and not able to join today, but she has been managing logistics for this entire event. And as we wrap up series on qualifying leads, I'd like to leave you with a few key takeaways. The patterns and proven forms that our seasoned sales and marketing leaders have shared with us today are not just techniques, they are the time tested strategies that can elevate your B2B sales and marketing success. Remember, as a tailor in the outfit wisely cautioned, your patterns, your proven forms, they aren't your enemies. They are the only friends you have. These patterns and best practices are the foundations upon which you can build your own path to success. But our journey doesn't end here, it's merely the beginning. The knowledge shared today is a powerful tool, but its true value is only unlocked when you put it into action. So take these insights and weave them into your own strategies for lead qualification. I'm excited to reshare details about our next session scheduled for Thursday 16 November. We'll be delving into the 2020X vision, crafting annual business plan with AI for success. In this session, we'll explore how artificial intelligence is transforming the way we plan for business success in the coming year. Mark your calendars for this exciting event. It's an opportunity you won't want to miss. Lastly, I encourage you to continue the conversation beyond the session. Connect with our panelists, network with fellow participants, and keep the dialogue going. Thank you for being a part of today's session. We look forward to seeing you at our future events and continuing our journey together toward enhanced B2B success. So on behalf of the entire team, I wish you all the best in your endeavors. Goodbye, and let's keep pushing the boundaries of success in the world of lead qualification.